Welcome to the Birds vs. Boys game day reaction show. Week 14, Eagles just absolutely destroy the Giants 48-22 to improve to 12-1 and clinch a playoff spot. There will be playoff football for Philadelphia. It was very clear from the very beginning of this game that the Eagles were the more talented team, that they were the better team, and it played out that way for 60 minutes straight until even after the backups got in early with Gardner Minshew, Boston Scott, and everybody on defense. Like we said, it started early. The game started with 2 sacks on defense to get off the field in a hurry, and then a 14-play, 8-minute drive that capped off in a touchdown. And you could tell just between the first defensive series and our first offensive series that there was a massive talent gap for these two teams. You've been asking yourself for a while. It's not really a diss of the Giants. It's actually a compliment to how good of a coach Brian Daboll is. But you've been asking yourself for a while, how is this team staying afloat? Like, how are they 7-5-1 with the tie last week? How are they able to do it? How do they have this playoff spot? Well, it seems to start falling apart. And they faced a team that was better in 3 different facets of the game today. And special teams, which is improving, defense, which was awesome, 7 sacks. We'll get into that in a little bit. And then offensively, that was not the same game. Those two teams did not play the same sport when it came to the Eagles offense. And I think we'll get into it here in a second, but just the amount of different ways in which the Eagles can beat you is scary. And it was one of those times where you just sit, and I don't want to say sit in awe of, but just sit in an excitement, and just you get to kind of just enjoy how much talent is on this roster and just take that in and soak that in. Because I don't think we always realize, like every game, I don't think we get a chance to take a step back and realize just like how talented the team is. We know we're good. We know this is one of the best teams that we've ever had. But there's been games, like even the Giants or the Packers on Sunday Night Football. Yeah, we put up 40, but it was 40-33. The special teams didn't play well. We gave up 33 points. They got touchdowns late. So it was like you didn't fully appreciate it. This is one of those weeks where you were just clearly better than a team that would be in the playoffs if it started before today, and you just absolutely destroyed them. So let's get into the offense first, because I just think that was where the massive talent gap was shown the most. They started with a 14-play drive. That was a little mix of everything, 6 different receivers on the first drive alone. And it's just, you're saying to yourself, do the Giants even have 6 receivers? And again, just this massive gap between the amount of talented players and the depth that the Eagles have versus a team that does not have that. And I thought they kept them on their toes with what they were able to do throughout the game. And then through the first quarter, they were up 21-0 in just a hurry. So the 14-play drive was awesome. And then they were just able to move the ball. I want to go back the late first quarter on the second touchdown drive that was capped off by the Devontae Smith touchdown. Earlier on that drive, they kind of started behind the sticks. And on third down, Quez Watkins has a great catch. And it's just such a great throw by Jalen Hurts, where it's like it was the progression that we've hoped showing itself in real time. Third down, I believe it was a 3rd and 6. They're bringing pressure. He finds the right read immediately. He puts it right on his guy for the first down. Drive continues, and it ends in another touchdown. And it's just like, what do? You sit back, and then he runs. You bring pressure. He finds his guy for a key 3rd down conversion. It's like you're playing the whack-a-mole. You hit it one side, and something else pops up. You hit it, a Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown pops up. You stop the running game, we're able to pass the ball. You stop Jalen Hurts running, he throws the ball. It's just, there's too many things to guard, to be able to be successful in defense against this team right now. And it's a team that doesn't even have Dallas Goedert yet. That drive, which was the Devontae Smith touchdown, I go back to that draft night, and I think the trajectory of those franchises have changed since. We trade up, hop over the Giants to get Devontae Smith. He becomes wide receiver 1 last year, and obviously is a perfect coupling with A.J. Brown this year. He scores the touchdown today, 5 receptions, 64 yards in the touchdown. The Giants, on the other hand, they kind of get wally piped by the Eagles, getting the Devontae Smith pick in the trade that netted the Cowboys Micah Parsons. they do trade and they got the extra first round pick out of it, but you get Kadarius Toney that night, who's no longer with the team. For the Eagles, now you're sitting in a position after that draft where you ended up with 3 first round picks the following year. You ended up with Devontae Smith. You turned in one of those picks into AJ Brown, and you just did everything imaginable to help your quarterback. On the other flip side, they haven't done anything to help Daniel Jones. And I just think the trajectory of those two teams changed that night. It's why the Eagles are where they are, scoring 48 points and clinching a playoff spot. And it's why the Cowboys or the Giants are where they are, fighting for this playoff spot. And for them, I don't even know if this week mattered that much. We talked about it in our show. They could get killed. I think I literally brought it up. I said they could be down 28-0 and it wouldn't even matter, because if they beat the Commanders next week, they're right back in a playoff spot. So it felt like almost a look-ahead game for them, despite us being the better team. So Devontae Smith touchdown. And then just coming back after that just weird punt play where you're just saying to yourself, oh my goodness, you can't give this team extra chances. If you'd be dropping punts and trying to, do like a little side kick of it, and it turns into basically what would equate to a block punt. So we get the ball at the 33. Excellent play call by Shane Steichen to just immediately take a shot. Finds AJ Brown, and you're up 21-0, and you're just cooking. They were just cooking all day. And it was like you hadn't even heard much from AJ Brown at that point. And then it's just a 35-yard touchdown. A good night. It was 21-0 midway through the second quarter. The game was over. And then even execution in detail, which is what we talked about when, it gets them in trouble before with either turnovers or penalties. They had 11 last week, 1 today. But a perfect execution example, you get points at the end of the half. You get a stop at the end of the half. You get the ball, start the second half. You get points. That's all it's honestly what I ask. I think it's why you defer. It's why you take the ball. You take the ball second and let them take the ball first. So you get a field goal going into the half. You get a field goal coming out of the half. All of a sudden it's 30-7 or 27-7, I guess it was. And it just felt like they weren't going to be able to put up 3 touchdowns against you. And that's the entire game. They're like, there's just no way that they can score 3 touchdowns against us. Just insane. So, but that's a great execution. They knew what their game plan was. Give them the ball first, get the stop, get points at the end of the half. They did. Come out of the half, they were running the ball. I don't even think they threw the ball on that drive, except for one miscommunication between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, and that was their only throw. Oh, and Devontae Smith, very uncharacteristic of him, didn't get the second foot down, or else that would have been another touchdown. He still got points out of it anyway. So they were fantastic in execution. No turnovers, and they forced a turnover at the end. They had 1 penalty the entire day. The offensive line just absolutely just cleaned house. Like, that was just dominant. It's just crazy to watch. And I think that is the beauty of this team. They can beat you with speed like they did with an AJ Brown touchdown on a 1-play home run drive. They can beat you with power. They came out of the half and didn't even throw the ball for a completion 1 time, but still got points out of it and took time off the clock. They had 3 rushing touchdowns today, 4 if you count Jalen Hurts on the ground. They can beat you in any way imaginable, and they are only going to get stronger if they avoid injury and bring Dallas Goedert back. It was insane to watch that massive talent gap that was between these two teams. And a lot of it is the different elements in which the Eagles can beat you. People who are internet commenters talk about Jalen Hurts' legs all the time. Well, they went out and they were aggressive with their game plan to throw the ball. And they did so early. Once they got up, then they ran the ball effectively. Miles Sanders, late home run touchdown. And just good for him, just to finish it off, I just think there's just so many different ways, but it's because people are stepping up like Miles Sanders, who, question mark, another question mark. I think Jalen Hurts was the ultimate question mark for this team because he is at the most important position. But I think Miles Sanders was the guy you were like, I don't know. Is this it? Like, is this his last year? He's been kind of unassuming, uninspiring, and 144 yards and 2 touchdowns today. And it's just like, good for him. There were so many like good for him moments. Brandon Graham, 3 sacks. He's closing in on Chuck Bednarik next year as the longest tenured Eagle. He has 3 sacks today. He was awesome. The defensive line was the perfect example of, at some points, beating guys with speed, like Josh Sweat off the edge early, and just beating them with force. They never got Saquon Barkley going. It was just fun. And then, of course, in the end, the inevitable Boston Scott touchdown run against the Giants. That franchise, that city must hate Boston Scott in the way that this city hates Cody Ross for his performance against the Phillies in the 2010 NLCS. Unreal for Boston, and another great example of a good for him moment. So, all in all, the only thing that can stop this team is injuries. Reed Blankenship got hurt. Lane Johnson was in the tent, didn't come back. I don't know how serious that is. Our punter, Aaron Sippis, got hurt, and what was actually a heads up play, and he almost got the first down out of it off a block punt. It was the only time you really saw them early going get points in that first half against us was because they got the ball at the 15. Well, he almost, after the block punt, picked it up and did everything athletic. It was the most athletic thing a punter did till he got hurt. And then good for, again, Jake Elliott. Good for him. Did his job. Of course, Britton Covey is is the guy who, is the emergency holder. If you lined up all 53 people on the Eagles team and said, okay, who's the emergency guy? Who's the emergency guy who has to do the snapping, holding, stuff like that? It would definitely be Britton Covey. I'd choose him first 100 times out of 100. So funny. Just so funny. And just another great good for him moment. And I really just genuinely believe like this team is steamrolling. They are a machine. And the only thing that could stop them is something like injuries. And you saw that effect. I know CJ Gardner-Johnson's not going to be back until January 1st. We'll see what happens with Reed Blankenship, but he got carried off of the cart and Kayvon Wallace looked lost. So that's a perfect example of, there could be a hole, but it's going to take an injury to do so. So it's health. It's health. It's going to be December 17th when they play a game again. All that matters right now is health. It's it. It's just health. They will find a way, get the ball into Jalen Hurts' hands, and you will be okay as long as you stay healthy. The last thing I want to say in the freaking world is that blue medical tent. I don't want to hear the words blue. I don't want to hear the words tent for the rest of the year. And this team is going to be something special if we avoid those three words, blue medical tent. So great win, endless pressure on defense. James Bradbury, could have helped this Giants team in coverage against Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. They should get a guy like that. Very balanced attack again for the third straight week for the Eagles on offense. Jalen Hurts is probably the MVP. As of recording, Patrick Mahomes hasn't played yet, but it's starting to become an inarguable race. I don't know. It just kind of feels that way to me, which is just awesome. Again, good for him. I keep saying it. Good for him. And good for Miles Sanders, good for this offensive line, who they're just execution, just knowing where to be. And then once they're there, putting paws on people, and just good for this coaching staff for, they had struggles on defense in the past few weeks and running the ball against them. And they seem to have cleaned that up. Plays on special teams, so they seem to have cleaned that up. And then, on offense, I thought it was creative play calling, that variation of the QB sneak where they pitch it to Miles Sanders. You have Jordan Mailata leading the way like a military tank. Miles Sanders behind him, gain of 20. Like they're just, everything they're doing was clicking today. And it was just awesome. So I'm glad to see it. Good to see. And yeah, this was just a lot of fun. So they could have got more help. The Texans had the ball at the 5 after an interception, 23-20, and then we realized why the Texans are a one-win team. That was it. You have Damian Pierce, and you're giving the ball to Rex Burkhead at the 1-yard line. You got the angriest runner in the league, and you're doing that stuff. That's just unbelievable. So you could have had more help with the Cowboys loss. You did get help. The Lions are playing good football, and they beat the Vikings, who now have their third loss. They are pretenders, just as we thought. I would just like to put that out there once again, though we've said that on the show multiple times. But now you effectively have like a 2.5 game lead because the Vikings lost for that 1 seed. And then if the Texans would have beat the Cowboys, I don't even think Christmas Eve would have mattered. We've been hyping this game up for weeks. For the podcast, for our teams, for everything, for our sanity, for the spirit of Christmas. And if the Cowboys would have lost the Texans, I don't even think that game would have mattered. So great day. It's just a great day to put up 48 and watch the backups come in and get strip sacks and see Boston Scott get another touchdown. We'll be back this week. We have a reoccurring guest on the show. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. We're at 296. Let's get to 300 before that Eagles-Cowboys game on Christmas. Big shows ahead. Both these teams get a win, and we just keep rolling. Eagles win big. Another one. We're headed to the playoffs, baby.